social media sites rife with images of hypersexuality, predominantly young women some of them who are major influencers, give the youngest of our digitally consuming generation the impression that that is how you're supposed to look, that this is how you're supposed to think and feel and act to get what you want, to get who you want, to be what you're supposed to be, as if some fantasy of aesthetic perfection is the road to happiness. It is not.
Social media is 100% evil. With those 7 words, Jonathan Roumie, the actor beloved worldwide for his role as Jesus in The Chosen, delivered a gut punch not only to Hollywood's elites, but to an entire culture shaped by screens. In March 2023, at a powerful gathering in Washington, D.C., where the Chosen community and faith leaders united, Roumie spoke with a conviction that could not be ignored.
Newton's law of motion says that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This also applies to the spiritual realm. Having played the Son of God for the last 3 seasons on a television show you may have heard of called The Chosen.
The event was buzzing with celebrities, influencers, and power brokers. But no one expected Roumie to shatter the carefully polished narrative that glorifies fame, algorithms, and digital influence. His voice cut through the applause like a blade, leaving the audience in stunned silence.
He wants us to believe that abortion does not harm us individually and as a society. So please, I beg of you, pray for those who do not have the faith, the strength, the clarity of purpose that you here do.
This wasn't just a speech, it was a declaration, a career-defining stand against a culture built on vanity, manipulation, and control. And the most shocking part, Roumie didn't flinch. He spoke as if he knew the cost, as if he was prepared to lose everything to expose a truth many fear to admit. To understand why Jonathan Roumie's words carried such weight, you have to know who he is. Roumie isn't just another actor chasing headlines. He became a global icon through his role as Jesus in The Chosen, a groundbreaking series that shattered crowdfunding records and touched millions with its message of faith, humility, and redemption.
And before you jump on me, no, I'm not specifically referencing a certain bespectacled wizard, though a few folks might disagree, but I'm referring to the media, which is even more ominous. And I don't need to name names. You know it when you see it.
Unlike many Hollywood stars, Roumie never sought the spotlight for himself. He has openly shared his struggles before success, times when he was broke, discouraged, and even questioning if his calling had meaning. That honesty became part of his strength, earning him trust from people who saw not just a performer, but a man of conviction. So when he stood before thousands in Washington, D.C. and denounced social media, it wasn't theater or a publicity stunt. It was a statement born of lived experience, deep faith, and years of observing how the digital world distorts reality.
Yes, there are always individual exceptions, unfortunately, but for the majority of believers, God is love, and true love gives way to life, not death.
What made Roumie's words sting was the context. In an age where Hollywood careers are built on Instagram followers, YouTube numbers, and TikTok trends, his rebuke landed like a thunderclap. He described social media not as a neutral platform, but as a carefully engineered system designed to manipulate emotions, divide communities, and enslave minds.
Embrace that which is bigger than you. He who gave you abundant life, and he who has called you by name. Do not be afraid. Mute the noise of the popular and embrace the counterculture of Christ's love and the message he offers you. The road is wide which leads to destruction, and many will enter it.
His warning echoed beyond Hollywood, reaching into homes, churches, and classrooms, calling out the silent epidemic of digital dependency. And he wasn't speaking in vague generalities. Research supports his claims. Studies from 2022 revealed that excessive social media use correlates with alarming spikes in depression, anxiety, and isolation, particularly among young people. Far from connecting humanity, these platforms thrive on outrage, envy, and addiction. They do not merely reflect culture, they reshape it, bending values and identities around likes, shares, and algorithms. Roumie's challenge was clear. How can a society claim progress when its most powerful tools are quietly destroying the very souls they pretend to serve?
The uniqueness of your precious life and to share them with one another. That is your legacy. That is your power. That is who you are meant to be. And that is how you will change the world.
It was a question that left his audience not only unsettled, but confronted with a truth many would rather ignore. But he went further. Roumie accused not just the tech giants, but the entertainment industry itself. He suggested that many Hollywood elites already know these dangers, yet they remain silent because their influence and profits depend on feeding the very system that harms the masses. The chilling part of his speech wasn't just his critique, it was his courage. It was as if he pulled back a curtain on a monster everyone secretly recognizes but refuses to confront. In that moment, Jonathan Roumie didn't just call out social media, he invited a reckoning. His words in Washington, D.C. became a reminder that faith and truth are still louder than the noise of likes, shares, and trends. As Roumie's words reverberated through the auditorium, the atmosphere shifted into one of palpable unease. The reaction among Hollywood elites was a complex mixture of stunned silence and visible discomfort.
In telling stories like The Chosen and my upcoming film, Jesus Revolution, that shine a light on the struggles and successes of the human condition, stories that uphold human dignity and reveal God's truth, an infinite love for his people despite our inherent flaws.
Some shifted nervously in their seats. Others deliberately avoided eye contact, as though unwilling to confront the uncomfortable reality he had laid bare. In an industry where social media functions as the primary artery of influence, sustaining careers through curated imagery, viral campaigns, and algorithm-driven publicity, Roumie's declaration of its inherent evil was not simply provocative, it was existentially threatening. Reports circulated almost immediately that certain industry figures dismissed his remarks as reckless rhetoric, while others conceded, albeit privately, that his words articulated concerns long whispered behind closed doors. The entertainment establishment thrives on maintaining a carefully orchestrated illusion, and with a single speech, Roumie had disrupted the narrative. What proved most unsettling was that no one rushed forward to challenge him directly, perhaps calculating that public opinion might, in fact, align with his bold accusations.
If only the rest of the world actually took the time to explore what it means to follow Jesus' heart. Yes, there are always individual exceptions, unfortunately, but for the majority of believers, God is love, and true love gives way to life.
The aftermath of Jonathan Roumie's fiery declaration was both swift and deeply revealing. In the weeks that followed, quiet but deliberate moves began to reshape his professional landscape. Reports surfaced of prominent Hollywood executives carefully distancing themselves from him. Conversations that once seemed promising were suddenly cut short. Projects that had been in development or under discussion were abruptly placed on hold, while invitations to elite gatherings and red carpet events seemed to vanish without explanation. On the surface, these subtle shifts appeared to signal the early stages of professional marginalization, the kind of quiet exile Hollywood often reserves for those who disrupt its carefully maintained image. Yet, paradoxically, the very isolation intended to silence him only amplified his message. What was meant to weaken Roumie instead ignited a powerful groundswell of support. Clips of his Washington, D.C. speech began circulating at lightning speed across digital platforms, ironically, highlighting the very paradox Roumie had warned about, the double-edged sword of social media. Though he had denounced it as 100% evil, it became the vehicle through which his words reached millions far beyond the original audience. Rather than diminishing his influence, the controversy galvanized it. Viewers from across the globe praised his courage, framing his words as a rare act of authenticity in a culture often criticized for superficiality and excess. Faith-based communities in particular rallied behind him, describing the moment as a clarion call against deception, a challenge to re-examine values in a society consumed by image. For many, Roumie was no longer just the actor who portrayed Jesus. He was stepping into the role of a modern-day prophet, willing to risk everything for truth. The long-term consequences for his Hollywood career remain uncertain, but the immediate impact was undeniable. Jonathan Roumie had transitioned from an admired performer into a symbolic voice of resistance against cultural conformity. The larger question now lingers: has he sacrificed the security of Hollywood recognition for a higher calling? Or has he, perhaps unknowingly, opened the door to an entirely new and more influential chapter of his journey? Jonathan Roumie's fiery speech was more than just a warning about social media. It was a turning point. He exposed an uncomfortable truth. The platforms that claim to connect us are often the same forces tearing society apart. His words echoed not only through Hollywood, but also into the hearts of everyday people who feel trapped by the constant noise of online culture. Whether you agree with him or not, His boldness forces us to confront a painful reality. Have we traded truth, faith, and real connection for likes and algorithms? If this video challenged your view on social media and the courage to speak truth, don't stop here. Like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that expose hidden realities. Together, we can shine light in the darkness and remind the world that faith still speaks.